Hey everybody, welcome to the July 15th, 2016 edition of the Intuit Developer Friday Morning Hangout. Do apologize for the late start today. We're having some hardware audio issues this morning with Google, but everything is on track and we are starting just a little bit late. I'm David Leary. I'm the Intuit Developer Small Business System Ecosystem Evangelist. You can follow me on Twitter at David Leary. Today we have a special guest, Kevin Hua, he's a product manager of the apps.com team. He's here today to talk about the QuickBooks Online app recommendation engine that has recently, I think it's about 6 weeks old now, that's been running in QuickBooks Online, and he's here to talk about kind of the nuts and bolts of that today. Before we get started into that, I just want to remind everybody we do have the Small Business App Showdown. The deadline for this is to get your app on apps.com by August 15th. We're taking the top 10 apps in this contest to QuickBooks Connect, and the top app's going to win $100,000. So if you're not on apps.com yet, get your app done, get through the tech review, get through the security review, and really push for that August 15th deadline. And then the other thing you want to definitely be aware of is QuickBooks Connect. So if you go to qbcon2016.com, we are starting to put up the list of the speakers, and the sessions will be up soon. And right now there is an early registration. So if you register now, you can register, I think it's still $99. So you can get that early bird registration fee or price to get into QuickBooks Connect. And as always, all the Hangouts can be found on the events page on the hub, which I'm going to share out in the showcase here. So it's developer.intuit.com/hub/events. All the events are always available there. We also, next week's edition, you definitely want to come to. We're going to announce a new function of the developers of the APIs. I can't say what it is yet. Hopefully, I was hoping to be able to say it this morning, but we're unable to. So next Friday, definitely show up for a new product announcement for developers that's going to be available. Oh man, I've shared out in the showcase the links for QuickBooks Connect and the events page and the Small Business App Showdown. Perfect. With that said, Kevin, do you want to introduce yourself? And I'm going to go on mute and let you kind of jump in and talk about the QuickBooks Online app recommendation engine.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, David, for the introduction. Again, my name is Kevin Hua, and I'm the product manager of our QuickBooks App Store. So today, I will actually be sharing some progress around what we've been doing towards reaching our personalization journey. But before I share some of what we have rolled out live, I did want to quickly talk about sort of where we want to end up in the future and our vision around personalization. If you really think about our App Store and apps in general, I think the biggest benefit that we can give both our small businesses, accountants, and developers is to offer personalized recommendations to each one of our small business owners and accountants. In the future, we want to actually have these kinds of personalized recommendations scattered throughout the product, not just within our App Store, but you can imagine within our first-time use, within in-product discovery, in contextual recommendations, and also potentially within emails, marketing emails, and also potentially within our telesales care. So personalization doesn't just live within the App Store. We're starting out small and we're actually rolling it out in our App Store, but you can imagine that these personalized app recommendations to these small business owners and accountants will live throughout the product. And especially for our developer population and our developer customers, I think you guys should be most interested in this because we've seen from some of the A/B tests that we've run that these personalization recommendations actually perform quite well compared to some of our other static carousels. So these personalized recommendations, I'll get to at a high level what it actually is composed of, but let me quickly just share my screen here. Give me 1 sec while I do that. So I'm going to go straight into the QuickBooks Online product. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. What I'm showing you right here is actually the first carousel, which is our personalized recommendations model. So if you see here, the title says Apps Recommended for Kevin's Kicks. So Kevin's Kicks is just my sample company that I have, and this carousel here is unique for every single one of our small business owners and accountants. And I think the thing that you may notice right away is there's not too many, there may be a few strategic partners here and there, but all of these recommendations are not based on any sort of strategic level partnership we have or anything like that. It's really partner level agnostic. So this is the carousel that offers the most right for me recommendation for small business owners and for developers. It's an opportunity to showcase not just any of our key partners, but also our long tail and basic partners as well. Great place to have a lot of those apps that don't get as much visibility show up to our small business owners. And especially if you're in a niche, you can definitely show up here as well. So what I wanted to show is just sort of the comparison here. You'll see the other carousels that you may be used to trending now and featured, but because we do really believe in our personalization algorithm, we do always show this as the top carousel.
The top one. Okay, and then Kevin, I'm in the same. Like I just opened up my QuickBooks Online also, and it was sharing it. I don't know if it's sharing it now. Yep. Yeah, it's sharing. But yeah, so I have different apps appearing for my company. Now my data probably breaks the algorithm because I have, it's a board short / construction company / accounting office. Like it's a total nightmare of my data. But I definitely can see like as this is more consistent, the apps will be definitely more relevant. I mean, I feel mine's a little scattered right now, but definitely I think for Effecto, like yours versus mine, we both have two different sets of apps appearing.
Totally. So that's a good segue because there is all these different customized recommendations for each of the small business owners and accountants. We can talk a little bit about what actually goes into this personalized recommendation engine. Of course, I can't give away the secret sauce and what every single input is, but at a high level, there's really 3 buckets that go into these personalized app recommendations. The first one here is around all of the text that someone enters as a small business owner or an accountant is really considered as the first bucket. So this could be the industry that you select, etc. So all the text that you enter in QuickBooks Online. The second bucket that we really look at is just your just the small business owner and accountant's broader usage of QuickBooks Online. That can include anything from, say, the number of vendors that they have or the number of overdue invoices that they have, but pretty much anything that we know around how the small business owner or accountant uses QuickBooks Online feeds into this personalization algorithm as well. And then the last part here, which is the last input into the last big group that goes into this personalized recommendation engine, is really around what other small business owners and accountants are using. So we look at pretty much a lot of the apps that are connected and base recommendations off of similar cohorts of users who have tendencies that are very alike. So those are mainly the 3 groups, and the reason we're really bullish on our personalization strategy is because we have run an A/B test in the past, and especially for our long tail developers, we've seen a 54% lift for a lot across the board for long tail developers against our control when we didn't actually have this carousel available. So that at a high level is pretty much what we have going in our personalized recommendations inside the App Store. You may ask whether or not it's on apps.com yet. We have still yet to put it onto apps.com into the signed-in apps.com experience, but we've gone and rolled it out live to 1.3 million of our QBO subscribers. So every single one of these QBO subscribers now has a personalized recommendations list. And I encourage all of you developers out there to really take a look to see and share feedback with us on how this personalized recommendation engine is doing and whether or not you guys are seeing any lift at all.
Yeah, the interesting thing about this too, Kevin, is one of the problems we always hear from small business owners is like, hey, there's too many apps. There's too many apps. And admittedly, we put too many apps in their way that they don't know who they are. Right? They can't figure it out. And so going forward, not only is it great that we're going to surface the right apps, we're just not going to show the wrong apps. So a lawyer is not going to see apps for inventory, right? Or a restaurant point of sale, or apps they don't ever need to see, and it won't be in their way. And then obviously now they can digest the apps that we're surfacing up. So in a way, it almost works just as good by not showing apps. you know.
Totally, and that's a great point, David. In terms of the visibility of the apps, they definitely get pushed to the center. And keep in mind that this personalized recommendation engine is a machine learning algorithm where, based on what the small business owner or accountant looks at, say they actually connect one app and then they look at the app card. If they don't actually connect, we actually do take that into mind and make sure that we do surface up new recommendations. So this list that you see up in front of you, this carousel right here, is actually a dynamically generated one and changes over time based on what you viewed, what you have connected, etc.
But over time, in theory, if they're construction companies and lots keep connecting CoreCon, that's going to keep showing up more and more and more, because obviously the goal is to get people to.
That's right.
Got it.
Exactly.
Cool. If we could just kind of pause there for a second, Kevin. Everybody that's watching in that YouTube style experience, you can definitely click on the Q&A panel and ask questions. For any of you that have joined and are live in the room, feel free to pause here, and we'll open up the floor to some questions with Kevin. It'd be great.
David, it's Chris Reagan over at Tax Planner Pro. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. I can hear you.
I am in a trial of QBO. I tested it both on paid QBO and in a trial. The trial is still showing the trending now carousel at the top. Mm-hmm. And it may be interesting if those trial users could see this too.
Totally. That's a great point, and we're actually working with our data scientists now to see whether or not we can provide trialers a personalized experience. So if you really think about the three big buckets that I had referred to earlier, from a trialer, we don't have the second bucket, which is around QBO feature usage. We don't have too much information on them right from the start. In the first bucket, we may know your industry right away, and we may be able to compare other small businesses from that, but that's a great point. We do want to actually put it into the trial experience in the future and actually get these personalized recommendations up front. As of now, it takes about a week or so to actually understand what this user is, what the best recommendations for this user actually are. So within their trial period, they actually do get these recommendations shown. But we're trying to accelerate it for sure.
Thanks, Chris. That's a good observation. I would have not known that was happening. Anybody else? Mark, Matt, Rob, Jack, you guys have any questions, comments?
No, I think this is great so far. You know, that's a pretty big concern for some of the smaller developers that don't have as many and get the page views, and this sounds like a great solution.
Kevin, can you possibly talk a little bit about the differences you're seeing between a general person that just goes to apps.com versus a person that discovers this apps tab in QBO versus somebody that discovers the recommended app, like kind of the different lifts and conversion rates? I know sometimes the numbers aren't perfect, but I do know that there's huge differences, right?
Totally.
So I don't even know if you have to talk about the exact numbers, but the difference between the three cohorts is definitely interesting.
Totally. So yeah, I can take you through the thought process of why we really wanted to have the QBO apps tab first with personalized recommendations. So if you guys think about it, our most engaged customers are actually browsing apps through the QuickBooks Online apps tab. Apps.com, we have a great domain. Sometimes we get a huge bounce rate because there's a lot of people that just see our domain and then come. But if you think about the most engaged customers and the stickiest customers that you guys would like to have subscribe to your app, they actually come to the apps tab. So that's why we've really centered down on having this personalized carousel show up there. In terms of conversion numbers, I would say that actually more of the carousels, including the personalization engine, including Trending Now, which really looks at which recommends apps based on data that we know about usage, about the user, etc. That all contributes up to around 20% of all of our conversion from the App Store. So it's very promising in that personalized recommendations plus search make up a huge amount of how we actually help convert any of the small business owners and accountants to users of your guys' apps. And if you add those two together, the 20% of the personalized recommendation with now and all the other similar app recommendations plus search, we're looking at around close to 75%, 80% conversion just straight from these sources.
That makes a lot of sense. I can definitely see, you know, the more engaged customer, right? Because they're usually, if they're in QBO, they probably have a problem where they're doing some sort of data entry, right? So it kind of makes sense that they're going to look for an app right then at that time, right at the product. So that definitely makes a lot of sense. How do you think? Oh, good.
Sorry, and again, I'm just trying to emphasize this point. If you really think about the App Store, our funnel is only as large as it can get at the top. If we get, say, more people, we can actually increase the funnel at the top of our App Store. So I'm really excited that other teams at Intuit, including our first-time use team, including our in-product discovery team, will be sooner or later using these personalized recommendation engines as well to start recommending apps, say, in the first-time use experience, in the sign-up experience, in emails. So all of these personalized app recommendations will start breathing and living outside of the App Store, which is, I think, a lot more powerful when it becomes contextual and more relevant.
Yeah, that's great. That kind of eliminates my position, because I mean, I get that email a lot, like, David, can you give us 3 apps for construction? I'm like, oh, right. So I kind of become that robot and that manual Turk on all that. So it'd be nice when this is doing this for everybody automatically. That would be great. How do you think? Like, it's very obvious to me, Kevin, that if it's an app like a Asphalt, right? Here's an app for asphalt companies. It's very obvious how that's going to only eventually surface up to asphalt companies in QBO. What if an app's a little bit more generic? You know, where Krigan has his Tax Planner Pro, which is kind of just an owner of a small business, right? Or and their tax implications. Or maybe some of the expense products, right? For like a Concur and Expensify, something like that. That's a little bit more horizontal and not so much industry specific. Like how do you kind of foresee those bubbling as this algorithm works its way down the road?
Yeah, that's a great point. So I think the really niche products out there will definitely be surfaced to the right people. So we don't want to get into a situation where some of the niche products, say if you're creating an app for specifically wineries or whatnot, shows up to construction companies as well. That probably isn't the right customer experience and wouldn't delight any of our small business owners and accountants. So I would say on the niche side, we are doing all that we can to make sure that you're right in front of the customer that you guys want to be in front of. So that, I think, will always continue. In terms of more generalized apps that can be used across different industries, like expense reporting, reports, etc., those may get surfaced a little bit more to not just specific niches, because it's across different industries that's actually relevant, but may get surfaced based on whether or not specific industries are using it more often. So some construction companies may be using Expensify more often. Others may be other industries like nonprofits may be using Concur more often. That was just an idea. Those aren't actual facts, but that's a use case that could happen. And just by word of mouth or just by personalized recommendations, more and more companies start to use these apps. But we really do trust our personalized recommendation engine to recommend the best apps that are right for their business. And if you actually look through this carousel, sometimes we aren't just recommending one expense app or one reporting app. There's a variety of different apps that may do the same thing. So there's some variability that allows the small business owner and accountant to explore and do their own due diligence. We're just trying to surface up the best recommendations and the best apps out there to the end customer.
Got it. So do you think there would be a little bit of a chicken and egg happening? So I can think of somebody like Big Time, right? So Big Time tend to have a lot of engineering firms and architecture firms using their time product, right? Their time and billing product versus maybe a T-Sheets or a eBility. And eBility tends to have sometimes a little bit more lawyers possibly even that, right? So each time app kind of skews a little bit, like you said, towards some industries. So is it kind of chicken and egg? Well, like naturally, you're going to see some trends of more architecture firms using Big Time, but then eventually, because you're recommending it, that's the only trend you'll see. Like, is that kind of? Have you guys kind of thought like Are there download implications from that? That kind of, you know.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think as of now we haven't seen as much, just because we're just accelerating the app adoption, and we want. I don't think we've seen that as much, but I can see in the future it may not be an issue, but I think we'll always try to keep variability inside this carousel. So there won't always just be. There may be just one time tracking app, but I think the algorithm itself is agnostic to just showing one or two apps. There's no set rule like that. I think it's more just around showing the best apps based on the data that we have. What are the best apps that other small businesses like you are using? If it's just one of them, then yeah, we could potentially show one, especially if the industry that you're in is using that. If it's multiple, then we'll try to surface those as well.
Got it. And then I know you said you're looking at some of the text on the page, right? There's some things developers can control, right? Like, hey, the text on the page. Do you take into account the reviews? Do you take into account how many connects they're getting to QuickBooks Online? Like, if an app's getting lots and lots of disconnects, are you going to maybe not service that one up as much? Or maybe it's getting disconnects in a certain, now you're accounting for that and not displaying that to those guys. Like, how do you, like, what other, I mean, without, obviously you can't tell the whole formula and algorithm, but are you looking at other things that the developer, maybe the developer can indirectly control the amount of connections and indirectly control the reviews they get, like if you're taking those into account?
Yeah, totally. So we're looking at connections definitely based on not just from our App Store, but also from the Connect to QuickBooks experience as well, from the CTQB button. So we're all looking at all of the connections. That's a big part in terms of how we recommend stuff. In terms of reviews, I think it's not as we know that sometimes reviews can not always be a good sort of indicator of how the app is, especially if there's very scarce ones. So I think we do consider it, but it's not as high, especially if we look into the actual data in terms of subscriptions, in terms of connections, in terms of click-through rates, etc.
Got it. I don't see any questions coming in from the anybody just viewing. Do you guys any thoughts or concerns as far as like with your specific apps that could be interesting in seeing how this could affect your app specifically? Yeah,
actually, David, one other thing I will add on our roadmap is looking here. Let me actually just switch companies really quickly. So I'm showing the small business experience, but in the future, we're actually doing a lot of work to enable accountants to add apps on behalf of their small business clients, just straight from within QBOA. So that functionality isn't there within QBOA now. There is an Apps tab in QuickBooks Online Accountant product, which is just an apps store dedicated to the accounting firm. But you can imagine in the future when we actually have this ability to recommend apps, the Apps tab may actually move up here, and we'll actually start recommending apps using this personalized algorithm to the accountant to install on behalf of the client. So there may be certain experiences where you may even be bubbled up to the accountant using the QBOA product, and have and the accountant will have individual recommendations per client.
Got it, which makes the accountant that much more effective if they're putting the client on the right products. Yeah.
Exactly, and I think this is huge. The only reason like we really are excited about this as well is because we know that accountants are the major influencers around small business owners and what apps they use, especially around the accountants that embrace the cloud. I think they're going to be a strong partner, not just to us, but to the developers themselves, to figure out what are the correct app recommendations. And the sooner we can get those into the QBOA product, the sooner it will benefit the developers and help them grow their business as well.
Yeah, I feel like, and I saw this, let's go back 4 years ago, we had a product called like a customer sync manager, and it was just shoved down customers' throats, and it wasn't a good product, right? And I swear it turned people off to cloud and apps for 2 years. They're just like, it was such a bad experience. And so, yeah, getting people the right apps is it's in the best interest for all of us.
That's right.
And then and actually, I just had somebody the other day, somebody actually here in Tucson who has a clothing store, you know, and he was kind of put on the Revel point of sale system, which is really great for restaurants and bars, maybe not so good if you sell clothing, right, and do inventory. And so it's like app is so so important.
Definitely.
For everybody, because if they get the wrong app, then they don't want to try any app.
That's right.
And then
Exactly.
we've lost.
Exactly. So we really do appreciate this personalized recommendation. I think we've heard from small business owners and customers, like, if you just look at the top rated list, because it is a static list and not all the apps may be relevant for every small business owner, they may try one of those apps and then realize, oh, it's actually not for me. I don't have that specific use case. So we really like this one, this personalized recommendation, because it's dynamic, it's based on the small business owner and accountant's needs, and surfaces the right apps on behalf of the developer to the right people.
Kevin, do you have anything on the roadmap for, like, so on Facebook, if I get an ad that, like, has no interest to me whatsoever, but somehow Facebook shoved in my face, and I can say, hey, this is not relevant, right? Have you given any thoughts to let end users have a little bit of control? Like, if they're like, hey, maybe I'm a law firm, right, and I'm here right now and I see QuickBooks pop up, like, I could just say, like, hey, not relevant, never show me this app again.
Yeah, that's a great point, and we do want to do something like that in the future. I can't go too much into detail there, but that's something that we're definitely considering.
Cool. That's great. Hey, Rob.
Kevin?
Rob, you're on mute. Do you want to?
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm pretty familiar with everybody else, but I don't recognize you offhand.
Okay, yeah, no, I just got an email forwarded to me by our COO. I work with a company called Red Team Software. That's actually a direct competitor of QuickBooks, so I hate their logos on there. No, just kidding.
Right.
Yeah, so no, this is very interesting for me, and because we're new to the apps marketplace and just now actually starting a campaign to get reviews to build our presence on there. So this is all new and very interesting to us.
Yeah, and I think the construction one, like, going over time, Kevin, to be interesting because you have, like, Notify, right, which is, like, really kind of, and this is not the perfect terminology, right, but it's your kitchen and bathroom remodelers, right, and then CoreCon, which is a little bit more higher end, like multi-year steel construction projects, and then underneath that you kind of have Red Team Software, which is somewhere between, like, custom home builders and bigger construction projects, right? And then you have Builder Trend, which is really like custom home builders. It's going to be interesting to see, like, what data you're going to recognize in QuickBooks to surface the right construction app to those different types of construction niche people.
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree, especially because now we have two different products where we're targeting two different market segments, so it would be interesting to see how you'll be able to kind of segment the different apps on there.
Yeah, because we don't want to put a kitchen and bathroom model on QuickBooks. It's just not the right fit, right? And so we just have to, I guess we'll learn, maybe the cost of their invoices, right? Or if they don't do prior invoicing, like, we'll start, or maybe we recognize things in their inventory, right? I think there's probably services or products, the way they do their invoices, that we'll eventually probably recognize, but yeah, it's a challenge just in that one niche, surfacing the right app. Never mind all the other apps.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
And this is to Kevin. So, Kevin, as I'm listening, I got kind of two things. One, this whole thing sounds to me like it's just SEO packaged in a different way. And so I'm bringing that analogy because the whole SEO thing is smoke and mirrors, unless you know what the algorithm is. So my question is, are you going to provide any sort of documentation through the developer community as to where to go, what to do, and check these boxes, that boxes, to have a better chance of getting your app to be recommended by a specific group? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying here. I think it is a black box because this is our sort of proprietary algorithm that we have. I think there are certain best practices, such as just putting on your app card what industries you guys may actually be specifically targeting, or specific use cases or examples that you think are that should be bubbled up. But definitely, I don't know if we'll get to a point where we're just going to divulge all the details around how our algorithm works, because then other competitors could just jump on it.
Let me ask the question in a different way. because that's not what I was looking for. What I'm looking for myself and as a participant in the community and everybody else in the community is a guidance document. If this is what you're trying to accomplish, these are the things that you might do. You just mentioned, oh, on your app card, you might put, I work specifically with this industry, and this industry, or these are the specific keywords that you might use, or some discussion that's way beyond just this here, and then you keep that up to date as you change. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think, David, there have been some guest blog posts from our marketing teams in the past that have done that. But definitely,
I'm trying to go farther than that.
I think that level deeper, and where I could see where developers, even though it almost falls into like, hey, developers, use good judgment, right? So we give you a choice to pick your industries, right? We give you the ability to type text on your app card, and I kid you not, there's developers, they might be apple tree picking software, and they will say they're for auto shops. They will just check mark every industry because they just want to show up everywhere. And that will probably hurt you over the long run, because the algorithm will throw you in front of auto shops, and then it has to, you're just going to get thrown out there to a bunch of people you don't want to be thrown out to, and then eventually nobody's using it, right? So I think it's kind of, I could see where if we could have, like, hey, here's things that are just bad ideas that could affect your recommendations. There's probably some balance in there, but I think it's using good judgment. Or if you're, like, I got in a discussion with Fishbowl. So Fishbowl released their time and attendance product to do time tracking, right? Ultimately, they kind of just want that only for their customers, right? So I told them, like, hey, call it time and Fishbowl for manufacturing, right? Companies. Like, just tracking it only for manufacturing, so that way, if people discover that, they can eventually discover Fishbowl, right? But leaving it very generic the way it is, nobody knows, it's not differentiated, right? So I think that overall, not just from an app recommendation standpoint, but the more you differentiate yourself on your app card, the title of your app, the industries you pick, the better off you are, in general.
Right. So let me maybe try to define this just a slight bit more.
Yeah.
Having gone through this entire develop process, I believe it was just Rob. Was that? I can't see a name, just a picture. But I know that you're out there and you're building, you're trying to get your feature set right, and you continue to build, and now it comes time to go start marketing. Well, what you're talking about here is part of the marketing package, how to get the best out of apps.com. And I'm thinking, I just believe that as much guidance as you have around that could be offered up, how to succeed on apps.com, more than just one blog post, but almost like a theme, would really help a lot of people as they make that shift to, now I got to figure out how to sell this cool thing I just built. Does that make sense, David?
We're heading more that way. There's even a talk, Part's going to do a talk, sharing the success stories, and here's what people have done that have been successful on the platform at QuickBooks Connect. So there's blog posts like that. So this is something we've heard across the board. And Vinay's actually said, our VP, right, he's basically, deep down, all developers care about is making money, and we need to help you guys make more money.
Well, right. Well, we care about making money, but so does QuickBooks. This is a conversation you and I have had, Dave.
Yeah.
So what we're all trying to do together, and if we think we're here doing something else other than just this, which is we're trying to make QuickBooks sticky, QuickBooks Online sticky. We want the people to keep paying for QuickBooks Online. That's what Intuit wants. And if we help Intuit get what they want, then we're going to get customers and we're going to get paid. They're going to get paid, we're going to get paid, and the whole thing works. If we don't focus on that first, then Intuit's going to take their ball and go away or make it harder. So, that's a two-way street. And I think if we don't look at it that way, we're making a mistake. We're here at the pleasure of Intuit. Not Intuit's not generous to give us money. To give us customers.
Yeah, maybe because obviously Kevin's talked about some of these things here, but maybe, Kevin, it's possible for you to write a blog post where, you have the whole algorithm. You can't share all of it, but there's some parts of it you probably can share, and maybe just by having those dialed out in a blog post with some, like, hey, here's how the algorithm kind of works, and here's some tips. Maybe I can help you, come with some tips that that we can put in there. But that could be a possible first start on that.
Right.
Yeah, we can take a look offline, David, and we can figure out what we can do there.
Yeah. And then I have one other kind of like comment, Kevin. I mean, you guys did this, but did you do this from like the top down, or did you go out and find a group of developers and say, hey, I see you guys here are 25 apps that seem to be successful. What would you like to see here? Was it top down, or was it driven by developers?
It was definitely driven by developers, because one of the biggest pain points that we've heard is just, I published my app, I got into newest carousel, and then after that, I don't get any page views. So we've definitely talked to some of their developers and then showed them this experience. And I think even just from running our A/B test before we actually rolled this out live to all of our subscribers, we did get developer feedback. We looked at the data, and once we realized that a lot of our non-strategic partners actually got a huge lift, we just rolled it out.
Okay, cool. I mean, I think it's a fantastic idea. The one thing that I would, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, but I would even say, how do we make this stronger? Is the whole niche thing? Is figuring out a way to say, hey, on your app card, you specialize in these 3 niches, and there's some way to tag that back to when somebody signs up for an account. That I mean, really just that simple. Because I know, I mean, I'm looking, and we're pro advisors as well, so we're QBOA. So I looked in QBOA, and I looked through the app recommendations for us. And the majority of the app recommendations for us are not recommendations we would use in our firm. They're recommendations that we would recommend to our clients, which is the thing you were talking about before. So we're not getting a good match as to that. What I'm getting is I'm looking 1, 2, 3. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Service. I'm not getting any recommendations that are pertinent to my business, because we use Receipt Bank for our customers. We use T-Sheets for our customers. I got 2 time tracking apps, how to get paid faster, how to get funded, inventory, field service. So now MavenLink, that would be related to my business. Help desk, scheduling, job tracking. So what I'm just giving you some feedback on. I'm looking right in here. Mileage and fleet. These things are not relevant at all.
What would be interesting, Mark, is if obviously you have clients, right? Go into each client's QBO, because you know what company or industry those are, and then just look and see what apps are coming up there, and just subjectively, do you feel like, hey, it's kind of on target? If it's not on target, like maybe you shoot an email to me or let me know, and I'll
all right. That's cool. And I can ask maybe some other pro advisors to see what's happening in their pro advisor account as well.
Now, yeah, that's interesting.
I'm being pretty careful not to say, hey, yeah, it's the same thing we're talking, because I'm trying to keep it generic. But of course, we want our app listed for every pro advisor. Because it helps them run their practice. But the other thing is, the interesting thing there, David, I can't access that for my clients, not on QBOA.
And that's exactly the feature that I was talking about, where we're actually trying to enable accountants to add apps on behalf of clients. So to your earlier point, though, in terms of what you can actually add to your developer card, if you see in the developer portal when you actually publish a card, there's an optional section for keywords. That's actually a section where you can put any keywords. If it's a pro advisor specific app, then definitely add those keywords in, because that is baked into both our search and our personalization as well.
Okay, cool. All right, so let me. We might have already done that, but because I'm not looking at the card, but that's really, really good information.
Yep. And the keyword section is definitely inside the developer portal already. So I think you have I don't remember the exact max character limit, but it's very similar to sort of like how SEO works. You put put in your keywords, and then it just serves as an input into our search and our engine as well.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited. I kind of want to start a new QuickBooks Online company for, I don't know, dental office or something, and just really make sure that the file is representative of a true dental office, and then see what apps get recommended. Like, I kind of really want to, you know, observe it from that point, because like my file is kind of a test file, and it's just 45 apps are connected to it. So, you know, one day I use the file and it's like a construction company. Next time I do some transactions, it's a retail place, right? So it's very scattered. But I would love to, like, you know, really see how this is working for a true representative data file of a specific company. Like, mine's just too messy to see how that's working.
I was kind of pressing on the guidance and things, because we have to use this information to decide what other apps that we are going to build as a developer. So all of these programs go into figuring out whether it's a good investment or not. Because A, we can build it, but the question is, can you market it? Can you reach an audience? Because there's a hell of a lot of noise out there. Does that make sense? In this way, if I go out and say, hey, look, I've got a great idea, and I want to target churches. Well, we're trying to get all of our church clients to move to QBO anyway. Well, I think we just about have. And so, but if I wanted to build an app and target it, this is the way to do it, right here.
Yeah, and Mark, I think you have a huge advantage that other, well, Charisma kind of has this advantage too. You two happen to be developers that have apps, but also own accounting firms with clients on QBO. Even though you can't see it through the QBOA, you could actually, you know,
I could get
each client and find out, hey, take a screenshot for me of what apps are there. If anybody could start building like a strategy on how to attack this, it's going to be a developer who's an accountant that has multiple clients, because you now can observe this across many clients versus somebody like Rob with Red Team Software. He could look at but all his customers are construction customers. He's probably going to get the same screenshot over and over and over and over and over again, right? But you two have actually an interesting position on this to research and learn and possibly exploit, right? If you think about it, if going back to your comment about SEO, right, how to play the SEO game, like it's an interesting.
Right. Well, because I mean, this is like lightning in a bottle. It's impossible to select from 2,300 choices. But if you go to remodel a kitchen and you need to get somebody to select the kitchen cabinets, the key is to get them to get down to 2, and then get down to 3, and then you can easily say which is the 2 best out of this. And now you've eliminated 2,300, and now they're looking at 2, and somebody can choose there.
Totally agree, and that's what this is starting to do. It's getting that narrowed down.
And definitely, just keep in mind that we have rolled this out for a few months. So as the algorithm gets stronger, and it's just a feedback loop based on all the data that we're collecting in terms of who's doing what, who's looking at something and not connecting, the algorithm will get stronger and stronger. So over time, due to machine learning, we'll actually be able to build a more robust personalized recommendation engine based on all the data that we have.
Yeah, this is great, Kevin. It's really exciting, and I think, you know, especially seeing behind the scenes some of the numbers that are coming through, I really think that the niche guys are going to really start noticing bumps on their traffic from this for sure. With that said, we're getting to the top of the hour. I think we're going to probably shut things down if nobody else has any other questions or comments. And let me just check the Q&A panel really fast here. Just kind of taking a second to open. Got it. Yeah, there's no questions externally. So everybody, thank you for coming. Kevin, if you have any closing comments, definitely throw it out there right now.
Cool. Yeah, I would just request every one of the developers here just to, again, please offer proactive feedback. You can either reach out to me or David, and we can definitely talk more offline.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you both.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Kevin.
Yeah, and we'll see you guys next week. Like I said, some big, huge new announcement. Very exciting for next Friday's Hangout. Talk to you guys later.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.